shame has had a chokehold on me. I believe everyone on earth has experienced this emotion. I mean, if you have not experienced shame, then you're probably a psychopath or something like that. I cannot relate to not experience shame because this has probably been the number one thing that has prevented me from growing, as it has with most people. So for the last couple of weeks, I have been obsessed with trying to conceptualize this concept of shame and figure out how I can really get to the root cause to understand why is this still affecting my life. Now, I didn't think it was still affecting my life because I thought it was kind of more thing of the past where I went down this route and I conformed, and eventually it led to me breaking free from this conformity and following my own path unapologetically. But that doesn't mean that shame is not still affecting my life. I only realized recently how much it's affected me through perfectionism, through fear of being seen, through so many different things, which I'm going to get into. To heal anything, it's not to intellectualize it, but you need to first become aware. I always say, make the unconscious conscious. I mean, that's a pretty common saying. You first have to become aware of what's going on so you can see the pattern, and then you can heal it. I'm going to also get into how you can heal it, but to heal anything, you have to feel it. Anything to do with healing is really feeling it and dissolving it. I really do believe this emotion, it might just be the strongest human emotion that has completely hijacked our entire society, so much to the point that we don't even talk about it. Yes, there's some people that talk about it, but really, mostly as a whole, as society, we don't really talk about these things. I mean, I'm sure that many people don't want to live in this prison within themselves, this prison of their own mind, of their own body. I'm sure that people want to free themselves of this, but I think people don't know how to. Shame is an attack on the core self. It's an attack on your identity, which I think is why it makes it so painful, because it's not like someone's bullying you and offending something that has nothing to do with you. It is a complete attack on the way you see yourself, your core essence. So when we're born, we have this core essence and we don't feel shame because of that. We just are. We just exist. We don't have this internal critic that suppresses ourselves. And that's what shame does. When we grow up and we have parents or whoever is influencing us, we go to school, there's a bunch of different environments that have been passed down, ways of learning, ways of conformity. And shame has been something that has been repeating for quite a long time. Like I said earlier, did I say that about the tribes and how back in the day, I don't know what year or what time period this is, but I read somewhere there was tribes, people would get exiled. It literally meant you would get killed if you were to break down this path of becoming your individual self. And that's kind of what happens when you are your individual self and you operate in a way that is natural to you, and you are growing up inside a certain system or a certain culture, a certain way of living, because we all grow up in different ways of living, but it's all inherently passed down from this mass way of living. And when you don't fit inside that system, most of the time, many people are not going to say, okay, let's adapt to you. No, you're going to have to adapt to that system. When you are shamed from your natural core being, you are going to fundamentally walk around thinking there's something wrong with me. I don't fit into this system, so I have to change myself to be accepted. Shame affects our behavior. So from a very young age, we stop being our authentic self and we start scanning the room to see, is this safe? Is this going to land well? We lose our authentic selves from such a young age. Our experience turns into protecting ourselves. Full of expression becomes unsafe. Our nervous system is wired to keep us safe, so we start to abandon ourselves, abandon that connection with ourself, that sacred bond of just being, just existing, and we start to operate in a way for approval. Because our nervous system wants to keep us safe, we try not to create so much disturbance. And this is the recipe for mass conformity. You look today at society and you can see the result. You can see how a lot of people you run into are the same. There's so many of the same individuals. You run into the same person, the same way of operating. It's like you're meeting the exact same person. And this is because most people do operate in the same way because of mass conformity. To break free from this conformity, you really have to become aware and choose to be the change. And I think it's just like too uncomfortable for so many people. And it's devastating because this shapes life direction more than anything else. This is the infrastructure. Shame is the infrastructure to conformity. Shame dictates what we choose for our career, what the path we go down, where we want to live. It really dictates everything, who we date, who we marry. And the worst thing about this is because it's not an active choice for many people. Like, many people think that they are following their inner compass, and they think that they are following what their soul wants, but really they are just following what keeps them safe. To follow your dreams and to follow what's within your goals, that's uncomfortable. That's a risk. That's going against being understood. Like, that's going against everything that is safe. So to follow what's within, that is dangerous. And when your nervous system has been programmed the other way, most people are not going to live a life that is true to them. And it's sad. I feel like this is stealing people's lives. Like, people's lives are being stolen in so many ways, not just obvious ways. People's lives are being stolen from them in more ways than one. And in this way, I really do believe this is a war for our souls, because I believe that we are here to be our souls, and that goes back to who we were when we were children. The interesting thing about shame is that it runs so deep in us that we just think, because we think we're fundamentally broken, but we don't realize that almost everyone feels this way with something, at least. This is such a universal problem. That's a whole thing. It's designed to isolate you and run these narratives through your head and your mind, thinking that you're too much, you're not enough, you'll never do this. But it's all an illusion, and it's to keep you alone in your suffering. I would love to say that this is all natural and this is not planned and not on this massive plan for evil and for control, but it obviously is, because just think about this. If you want to control someone, what's the ultimate form of control? Yeah, you could lock people up, you could make an army and do all these things. Have we really escaped slavery? Because most people are a slave to their mind, and the easiest way to control people is through their mind. And most people are prisoners of their own body. Even me, I'm so dedicated. I'm so devoted to healing. I mean, I feel like that's all I've done for the last few years. It's been on healing, and I'm still a slave to this conditioning and this shame I've experienced. I'm not letting it have control over me anymore. What shame tries to do is it tries to relocate the authority outside of ourselves instead of what feels true, which is our intuition, and learning to trust what's within. We all are born with gifts. We are all gifted children. And I mean, some people think drastically different than other people, but we all are here for a reason, and we all have something that is unique to us. Even though we all are connected in so many different ways, but we all have things that are special to us. And that would be what you did as a child. Like, it's always going back to your pure self as who you were before the world told you who to be. When we learn to place that authority outside of ourselves and think the answers are outside of ourselves and we need validation, we need all these things because we just want to be accepted, then we are suspended between being half alive and half waiting. And now our world is, if you do try to break this cycle, and you, no matter what you, even if you feel the shame, you try to break free from it and you try to follow this path of your soul and reconnecting with your inner child and creating from that space, you will be shamed even harder, which is so unfortunate. You will be shamed even harder because there's a crowd of people don't like when you try to break free from that and step out from that. It makes them uncomfortable. So you will be bullied. You will also be an outlier because of that. You really have two options. It's like to be a slave to your own mind and to be a slave to other people, or to try to break out of this internal surveillance, which we can do. People are not being their true selves. You cannot connect with other people as much because you are wearing a mask. And when most of society is wearing a mask, connections become very superficial, and that has led a lot of people to feeling deeply alone. We hesitate before we speak, we think before we speak, we act professional. And while kindness and acting nice, I guess, is admirable, is this not toxic? The way the society operates in a lot of ways, we think that we need to keep certain things private, or we think that we need to have distance from so many people. But at the same time, we all experience these things together. It's interesting how the world has normalized connecting over the most stupidest things. Yeah, of course, share your makeup routine, share this, share that, share everything that's not you. But when something connects us all oh my God, don't share that. That's so wrong. I don't see it that way. So if I were to talk with things with me, I'm like, that's because I don't think this separates me. I don't think it's me talking about an experience that I had. Why would I keep that a secret? I kept it a secret for so long because I felt like it was connected to my self-worth, but it wasn't. It was an experience I had nothing to do with my self-worth at all. We all go through experiences in life, and that's not what separates us. That's what connects us. So when this inner watcher is installed in us, even if we try to break free from this, our body, because our body is now programmed to think that's not safe, we will get anxiety. Our body will shake. Some people have panic attacks because they feel like they're not in a safe environment. And we get to this point that we become so disconnected with ourselves. All because we are shamed for not allowed to be our true selves when we were younger. So experiencing shame in childhood is the more obvious one. But what really actually surprised me as I started to dive more into this is how, as I got older, how much it was impacting me, like I said. So there's this concept of the superego. And the superego is, I guess, essentially your idealized self, and shame cannot just be looking back at the past and analyzing it from there and how it's affected you. Shame can also exist in this gap between where you are now and your most ideal self. Now, this ideal self is not often connected to actually self-improvement, because self-improvement would have to do, I believe, to be really self-improvement, it has to be connected to your soul. But often this super ego is this version that we think we should be, but it's because of the conditioning or the culture of where we grew up in. Say if we have parents, I'll speak from my experience. Okay, so I had parents that would give me love when I would academically be successful, when I usually would get a really good grade. They'd be like, wow, good job. And then I became really addicted to this unrealistic standard, this ridiculous standard of academic excellence. But the thing is, my brain does not operate in a way that fits these old structured systems that are not, meant for anyone that's an original thinker, anyone that thinks in a multitude of ways, in a multidimensional way, divergent way, which a divergent, I believe, is just like a multitude of ways. You're not going to thrive in a structure that is designed for the opposite. And I believe that's half the reason why it's designed, to shame you. And a lot of people I know just, they don't care. Okay, whatever. I don't think like that way. I'm not going to pay more attention to it. But for me, it really affected me for multiple reasons. It affected me not just for the reasons where I would get validation, I would get rewarded, but I started to put my worth in my academic. I became obsessed. I remember a time I got a 97 on this test, and I was like freaking out. I was like, what the hell? What happened to the 3%? At first I think I was excited about it, and I went home and I was like, I got a 97 on my test. And this was like a really hard test. Again, like I just never have done well in testing environments. This is not how my brain operates, which is completely fine. It's not their fault. It's just the way it is. My parents were like, well, what happened to the 3%? I would just visualize myself studying in libraries. This vision I had for myself was not actually my vision connected to what I loved as a child. And me going to university and studying my major in chemistry, that had nothing to do with what I loved as a child. This was my ideal self from a place that was not connected to my true self, because my true self was free and loved designing things and more of the arts. But this ideal self became created within myself, and I thought it was me. And I think that's a path that so many people go down, is they create this ideal self, their super ego, not realizing that this is all inherited from their culture, the environment, and it has an impact on us, and we think that that is our dream, and it's not. But the shame arises where there's this resistance between where you are and that ideal self, because I also do believe a lot of people don't really end up becoming the ideal self, and they feel that immense shame. You're going to have this resistance always when you are not in alignment with your true self, because when you reconnect with your true self, things are going to come a lot easier, and you're going to be supported by, I don't want to say the universe, but I don't know, I need a better word, I don't want to say God either. You're going to be supported when you follow what you're meant to do. Because I do believe like we come here to do something, and we are inherently more valuable when we're connected to our true self. There's going to be that resistance when you're operating from a place of alignment. You're achieving something that does not come natural to you. You're striving to do something that you're not meant to do. When we keep failing to meet that standard, then we feel shame, and we feel like we're not good enough. We feel unworthy. We feel a multitude of things that shame brings up. Now, on the other hand, if you do meet the standard, because, some people that do meet this standard that they've set for themselves, you can also go into that area of pride. But then you're also feeling pride from something that is not really you. You're starting to get validation from something that has nothing to do with who you are at your core. This teaches us to suppress our natural desires and our natural urges that's just life. That's not the divine design. That's the life that we were born into. But that's not the way that it was meant to be. The thing is, we think that we're doing the right thing. That's what it tells us. That's what the super ego is. We think that we're following the right action. Because I was so obsessed with my academics so long, my family only really saw this version of me. I mean, I was like, they would see me on Saturday mornings in grade 10, grade 11, and I would be just studying. Either I'm gonna get like 100 on this test, or I'm not going. Like, I would literally not go to some exams just to avoid to get a bad grade, because if I got a bad grade, then it would completely destroy me. I was like, I'm never getting a bad grade, so I would just like not go to some classes. But then when I left everything that I was doing academically, because I always knew these systems were so toxic and I hated them, I had that resistance, and I was like going against my own natural being, and I was like fighting with the school system. I was also like fighting with my own natural makeup. But I just felt like I had to work harder, and I had to work harder, because if I continued to work harder and to go against that, what comes natural to me, then things would work out. But I ended up just realizing this was never meant for me and walking away from it, and that was the best thing that I could have done. Some of the main impacts of shame are rumination, fear of being seen, perfectionism, identity, belonging, and creativity. I have massively struggled with all of these. And rumination is one of those things that is probably the worst thing ever, because you are in this prison, but it's like a cycle. Rumination is a constant cycle repeating in your mind, and it's very difficult to break free from this. And this is one of the major reasons why I wanted to get to the bottom of shame, because I have experienced rumination, and actually quite recently I have experienced rumination because I felt immense shame for something I did, and I do regret this, but I'm like, you need to let this go. And I've already talked about this probably in all my other podcasts, because I am so mortified, I'm so embarrassed, and I realized, I'm like, why are you so embarrassed? Okay, I thought it was really funny to post on my stories something very unhinged. And listen, I did this when I took psychedelic this summer, and this is the first time I ever took psychedelics. I didn't take that much. Like, I didn't trip or anything like that. I just felt very happy and I felt very calm, and I felt very no ego. I felt my ego died, and I was just at peace and at one with the earth, and I felt like sinking into the soil. I just felt so at one. But I was also fasting at this time, so I don't even post on my Instagram stories. Like, I have not posted in a few years much, and then I just decided to do that in the moment, which was so impulsive. After I was looking back on that, I was like, what the hell is wrong with you? I repeatedly kept saying to myself, and I'm very kind to myself, so for me to say this, I was like, what is wrong with you? Why would you do that? Because it wasn't just like what I said. I'm laughing now because I'm just like, I'm kind of getting over it, and I can kind of laugh at it now, but oh my God, I've been ruminating for months about this. I kept saying, what is wrong with you? What is wrong with you? And I did feel attacked to myself. I realized that my mind kept looping because my mind is trying to protect myself from future pain. That's what happens when you ruminate. My nervous system is scanning for danger. I was like, I can't do this. I can't deal with this constantly repeating in my head. So I addressed it. Instead of trying to repress it, I kept trying to repress it and to say, oh my God, stop. Like, I don't want to think about this. I was like, you know what? Let's address it. This was not as embarrassing as you think it is. I had to really get clear with myself. Why did I do this? First of all, you thought it was funny because you took psychedelics. It was not funny. It was funny when you have no ego, but that's not how society operates. And I'm not saying that you need to operate in a way that's like society. No, we should not conform and operate like society. I don't feel like I do, but at the same time, I feel like there's still a part of me, and this probably is the ego talking. I don't know. I think a certain amount of ego is healthy. Anyways, I think you can address something. You can be aware this is not the way. I don't want to do that in the future. This is not. It wasn't even the kind of style too. It was like more so not even the message. It's just the style of how I did it. I was like, wow, that's embarrassing. So I had to understand why I did it. And I think there's a few reasons. I think that my inner child and my true self was just trying to break through. I think that was one of the reasons. And when you do anything for the first time, your inner child trying to break through, and your true self, or exposing that to the world, it's going to not come across the way you want. Like even when you create anything, it's never going to be like you think at first. And when you completely have no mask and it's just soul, yeah, you're like a toddler. You don't have that conditioned way of being. That's the way that society operates. So of course the ego mind is going to think that you're insane. I also realized that this was not as embarrassing as I thought it was, but I did feel seen. Realized I'm like, you have a massive fear of being seen. I have been aware of this for quite a while. I have a massive fear of being seen because I would create certain things, and even for this channel, I'd post them. I'm like, yeah, I got no views, thank God, because I looked bad in that, or was talking weird, or I said something which I wish I didn't say, but whatever is authentic. I realized that I was manifesting into my reality, and my nervous system was not capable of being seen. And this is something I've been massively working on. It's very weird to be someone who loves being quiet, and I don't like eyes on me. I have so much freedom and just being invisible, but at the same time, when it comes to the things I want to do connected to my inner child, connected to my soul, it's like this obstacle, it's this barrier. It requires me being seen. But for the longest time, I just have not liked being seen. Even when I was younger and I would have birthday parties, even from such a young age, there's pictures of me at this playground on my birthday, and I'm crying because my mom invited all of my friends or whatever when I was younger, and I just hated it. I hated attention. My mom always said, you hate attention, and I just loved being quiet, and it was always true. Like, I just hated attention, but I realized it was just because like I felt so safe alone. I didn't feel safe around people, and I never have. Get over my fear of being seen meant that I had to become safe within myself to a different level. Yes, I'm safe when I'm alone, but to get over your fear of being seen while being authentic and not wearing a mask, because you can be visible when you're not being your true self. But when I'm being authentic, even though everything I create is just one part of me, it's one day, it's one sliver, it's not my whole existence, it is me. You have to have a really strong center and a really strong core. And I had to realize, like, there's nothing no one can say. You know who you are. You know who you are. And I've had to do this reprogramming with myself to get over this fear of being seen. And this fear of being seen also has been highly correlated to my perfectionism. And I'm talking about myself because I believe that the best way to help other people is to talk about your problems, the vulnerability, and I just feel like there's so much how-tos, and I think people need more authenticity, but that's just me. So my perfectionism, it can be good, but also I think it gets to a point where it's a blessing and a curse. Like, it holds me back. I think it's great to have a high standard and to hold yourself to a higher standard. And whenever I create something, I'm like, I really, really am hard on myself. For so long, I just disappear and I avoid it, and I've taken that time to retreat. And while I think retreating and reflecting is part of the creative process, also pushing through at times instead of just disappearing, because disappearing could lead into avoidance, is crucial in understanding that you become better by putting in the reps, and you become better by failure, and you fail your way forward. Allowing myself to be seen when I'm not perfect which is ridiculous. You can't be perfect if you're being real, because there's no such thing as being perfect. I'm quirky and I have all my imperfections, as any human does when we're being freaking real. So I realized, I'm like, I need to let this go, and I have to reparent myself, and I have to tell myself, no, like, there's nothing could happen to you. You're fine. You're safe. No one's going to attack your core anymore. You're safe. You're strong, and you've done this work, and you know who you are. No one can say anything. No one can do anything. I think this also comes from being a target. I do believe that everyone in life has experiences where people are not kind, people are not genuine. But I do think there's some people that are just a heavy, heavy target. And going back to this gift in this thing, I think that we're all childs of the divine, or whatever you want to call it. I believe that we are all so special, but I think that there's some children or some people that are just more different, and it doesn't make them more special. It's just that in this lifetime, they are here for maybe a larger purpose. Just because you're here to do something that requires being seen or requires something bigger, that does not mean your life is more valuable than someone else's. Because, in my past life, maybe I died for something to clear karma, or to prove, or to do something with a lesson that I need to learn. So in this life, if I wanted to learn a different lesson, or someone wanted to learn a lesson, it requires them doing something larger. That's just the lessons they came to learn. It's all about experience. It's all about the things that your soul came here to learn, and there's not one lesson that is better than the other. But I do think that some people are so used to being a target, and that makes them so afraid to be seen, because already with such a small audience, or growing up even just in school, they're just like already targeted for being different, extra different, I guess. I mean, I believe that normal is a myth, and I believe that no one's normal. If you're normal, I think you just have forgotten your soul. Rumination is this internal background check, because in the past, visibility reminded the nervous system of a time where they were past targeted and they had to hide. Because when you're a target and you spend life feeling watched, you spend life feeling judged, separated, scapegoated, misunderstood, the psyche still thinks that being visible has a cost. So when your system does not feel safe, you can become a perfectionist, because you can want to become flawless. So no one has anything to say. No one can hurt you if you do have a flaw that people could pick apart. And this can be a prison in itself, because if you've ever experienced perfectionism, a lot of the times perfectionism is such a hell, because you are constantly not actualizing what you want to create, because it's not perfect enough. It's not up to this standard that you've set. I do this all the time. To this day, I do this all the time. Today, I was doing this. Actually, I just took a break because I had to charge my camera battery, and I was just like, I wasn't talking the best the first half. I should just start again tomorrow. And I've already recorded, I don't know, maybe an hour. And it's been a couple hours because I got distracted since I did the first part of this video. And I was just like, you know what? I should have, reminded myself what I'm going to talk about, or I shouldn't have waited this long. Or maybe I should remember what I was reading the other day about. I wasn't reading a particular book. I was just listening to different things about shame to try to understand the root cause. I'm like, oh my God. This is why everything takes you so long. There's a major difference between wanting to strive to produce something of high quality, or to produce something that you're proud of. But at the end of the day, like, you need to have that compassion for yourself and understand that the flaws are what make things human. Also, the other day I was editing a video, and I decided, you know what, I'm not going to spend an entire day editing this. I will spend an hour max, and I'm not going to cut out all of my human flaws. If I say like too much, whatever, I'm going to leave it in. That was like giving myself permission to have flaws, and that little choices like that is what, in being there and like understanding, okay, I do have a problem with perfectionism, and on one end I do appreciate that about myself. I like striving for a certain quality of standard, and when I don't meet that, it is hard. But at the same time, every time I get to one, I get to learn about myself. I get to assess myself, and I get to see, okay, where can I improve? But also self-compassion. I mean, self-compassion is the antidote to shame. I would rather practice having self-compassion than keep myself in this illusion of just thinking, okay, I'm not good enough, I'm not ready, I'm not this, I'm not that. And I think it's reality. Listening to this, I think, no, this is true. I'm not this, I'm not prepared. It is reality to a certain degree, depending what reality you want to look at, depending on whose perspective you want to look at. Some people prefer you to be more candid, and some people prefer you to be more put together and stop rambling. But at the end of the day, like, all you can do is what comes more natural to you, and all you can do is try your best in each and every moment. And one of my major realizations I've had this year has been, how am I always working? Like, what have I got done? This was a huge reflection of this year. And I went into that reflection in a different video, but I also realized reflection is just so crucial to anything in life. Whether it's relationships, I mean, into any area, if you want to show up the best that you can in your life and have the best harmonious outcome. But if you're always preparing for things, if you're always in this preparing or in this motion, and everything is just unfinished because you cannot accept where you are now. I feel like we need to have acceptance. Acceptance is the step one to so much change and improving our lives. This is why when people go to AA, I'm pretty sure in AA, it's like the first thing that they do is they get people to accept what they did and to say it out loud, to acknowledge it. When I think about great artists and great creatives, and I'm always going back to creativity, even though I know it's such a minority of people that are creative in this life, I do believe that in the future, I mean, I don't know how long, in the future, I wholeheartedly believe the world will be such a more beautiful place, and people will be creating from their divine birth. Like, they will be connected to their divine self, their divine birthright, who they were before the world told them to be. I believe that people will be creating from that space, but I believe the people that are creating now from their soul, or have in the future, they have faced this obstacle of shame. Unless you were a very small percentage of people that grew up with, a certain kind of parents that protected you, and I don't even know if you can even not experience shame as a major obstacle even then to overcome, if they were to shelter you and to support your gifts from a young age. I don't know, maybe they experience less shame, but I think everyone experiences shame, and it's an obstacle for everyone to overcome. And what I realized is that all these people that have careers with their creativity, or whatever you want to call it, they have overcome this obstacle, and they have had to face this fear of being seen. Because I've realized, how do these people, how can they have this much eyeballs on them? How can they deal with it? It's so much energy. I had this barrier, right? Because it's like, if I want the things I want to create, and I want to have creative success one day with it, that means I would have to be seen. And I've gone back and forth between this, because it's like, I don't want to be seen, but I want creative success with what I want to create. I'm like, well, you can't really have both. And I've realized that these people, for the most part, either it ruins people's lives, like, it looks miserable, but there's some people that have such a strong center and such a strong core, and it really made them stronger, and it made them have thicker skin. Because first of all, it's really hard, well, to be a creative in today's day and age means you have to have some kind of online presence, and if you have any type of online presence today, you are getting destroyed, because people, I don't know what it is about the negativity and how people comment and are just like, people will psychoanalyze you and attack you and try to destroy you. It doesn't matter who you are. And to be aware of that is to have strength in yourself, and to go through the fire of the shame and to face it, because it doesn't dissolve unless you face it. Sometimes I feel like I've just experienced so much more shame than other people. Everything I've looked into about shame, I relate to all of it. I relate to the perfectionism, the fear of being seen. I conformed so hard. I only found my path from conforming to the most extreme level that I could even think of on various levels, and completely lost myself until one day I was looking in the mirror and I just was like, who the hell is this person? I don't recognize you. I reached a threshold in my life, and that threshold broke me open, and I was able to unravel and to go back and find that child within me. And it's like I'm connected to my inner child, my truest self, but there's still layers I have to go, and there's still things I have to undo at the conditioning. I don't think you necessarily arrive. I always think becoming anything and unbecoming is this dance. I say this all the time. I really do think it's it's a cycle as well, because sometimes you will unravel so much, you could feel so at your core, but then sometimes you will try to integrate everything into what you're doing, and then you will take maybe a few steps back, but it's not really a few steps back, it's like necessary, it's part of the process. You take a step back, you take 5 steps forward, following your inner rhythm that will look different for everyone. And you have to give yourself permission to do that, because that's the whole thing about this. It's like you're reclaiming your inner authority, you're reclaiming your life, and understanding that you don't need to feel shame for being human. You don't need to feel shame for these things. And I know we do anyways. Like, I don't need to feel shame for making a mistake or being too vulnerable or just with the wrong people, or I don't need to feel shame for these things, but I still do. But it's reminding myself constantly reminding myself, our brain is very flexible, and we can create new neural pathways in our brain, and we can reprogram our body and our brain together. But we do that by addressing it, and then in that moment we have a choice. If something arises, instead of trying to shut it down and be like, I don't want to think about this, and that's where the rumination comes from, you could just observe the thought, understand that it's not you, but observe it to understand what's going on with yourself. Ask yourself, why maybe is this arising? There's always a reason why, like, something is arising within you, and maybe you can try to understand it instead of shame yourself for feeling the shame. You can try to understand it more and to do the opposite. I'm trying to think of an example. I don't know why I cannot think of an example right now. Usually I have a million different examples. Humans are really funny. When you think about it, the things that we do that are so normalized, it is hilarious that these things are just so normalized. And then when it comes to simple human things that are just primal or natural, we experience immense amount of shame because of it. And it's like even taboo still to talk about these things. It's not as mainstream as a conversation, and people fear these conversations, but I think these conversations can be very, very healing. I mean, there's so many layers to unpack in these things. I think tolerance is really underrated. Baby steps, very underrated. I'm a big believer in the turtle's journey. I forget this story, but when I was younger, I mean, I think it's a pretty global story, so I'm sure some people will know what I'm talking about. But there's this story, and it was about the turtle that won the race versus, I think it was a rabbit or something. I don't even know. I just know the turtle won the race, and the turtle was slower, but it was steady. And I guess that's not the best description of the story. It's very not descriptive at all. But anyways, I think of it all the time. I'm like, I'm playing the long journey with what I am creating. And what I've had to realize is, like, I really have to celebrate the small wins, and I need to start acknowledging the small wins and acknowledging where I improved and appreciating that and having gratitude and having grace. So even my last video I made, I'm like, hey, you're so much more comfortable, you're getting better. And instead of deleting the ones before that, I'm like, okay, leave it. It's not where you want to be. You're still not where you want to be, but it's okay, because you're improving, you're getting better, you're observing yourself, but it's not doing from this place of self-hatred. It's doing it from a place of self-love and just wanting to become the best version of myself, or wanting the layers to fall off me of my conditioning, so my truest self can be translated to what I'm saying to other people. But the tolerance builds. Like, last time I sat with myself and I said, no, we're not going to edit out all the things where you're pausing, the hums, the likes. maybe you say it too much, because I don't know why I say it like so much. I mean, I don't think I say it that much, but I would like to be, obviously would love to speak better, but that is a struggle of mine. Speaking has always been a struggle of mine. It's just not one of my strengths, but I'm getting better, and that's okay. And eventually, if I just start to talk more, because again, like, I'm always in isolation. I'm hard, unless I talk to my camera, I'm not talking to anyone. It's just something where I'm going to have to sit with myself and have to have patience and understand it's okay to be frustrated. It's okay to be frustrated that the words are not coming out sometimes the way that you say them in your head, and that's okay. But you have compassion. Like, we are human and we all have flaws, and we are not meant to be perfect. Like, if you were meant to be perfect, then what would life be for? Life is the part where you learn. And that's why you have to keep reminding yourself. You have to keep reminding yourself it's okay to make mistakes. And you think that, oh my God, everyone's thinking about you. I made this mistake how many years ago? Really? Okay, in the most cases they aren't, but sometimes they are. There are sometimes people are talking bad about you. My dad was always like, why are you so secretive? Like, why don't you want anyone to know where you are? He's like, I'm just so excited to talk about what you're doing with your life and all this stuff. I'm like, people are out to get me. Like, you don't understand. He's like, you've been graduated from high school for how many years? Like, no one is out to get you. I'm like, you don't understand. I am constantly being talked about. I know this. And because I have people that I thought my friends would come up to me and they will say something like, I heard you doing this. Like, how did you know this? How did you hear this? Because I'll say it to like one person. And that was always the case with me, where I would go to high school and every day I would hear something about myself that was just not true. A new rumor, so like, I was constantly a target. I was constantly being talked about. And to this day, I still am. But honestly, it's a gift, because I feel like that just prepares me for the internet. Really, it's a gift, because that prepares me. That builds tolerance as well. And first, I was so private. I didn't post anything. I didn't do these things I wanted to do creative wise, because I let them have control. Because I'm like, well, they're talking behind me, so I'll just disappear. No, I don't need to disappear. Like, I think being private is amazing, and I think I want to be private with certain things again. Like I said, I felt the shame because I went from one extreme to the other, from 0 to 100, and I'm like, okay, back it up. But at the same time, you can control what you can control. It's not always that no one cares about what's going on with your life and you think no one's watching. It's not true. I know people say that, like, no one really cares, but it's not always true. Like, sometimes people are keeping tabs on you. I've had people blackmail me, and I'm just like, what? Like, what did I ever do to you? Nothing. It's just because sometimes people are targets, and understand that sometimes, like, people actually are out to freaking get you. And sometimes the people out to get you are the people that are supposed to be closest to you. Sibling rivalry is a real thing, and I'm not getting into that, but that's just one example. There's sometimes people are seriously out to freaking get you, but at the same time, whatever, that is preparation for whatever you're going to have to create. The most important thing is being true to yourself and who you are. That is the most important thing in life. And I've heard this a million times, where people ask people that are on their deathbeds, what's your number one regret? It's always, I wish I lived a life true to myself, but somehow people just hear it too late, or it doesn't click, or they're just too scared. The people that you think are brave doing all these things, and they're just in a different category. No, they're not. You understand that branding is a powerful, personal branding is a huge thing, and I don't think it's necessarily wrong. People can brand themselves how they want to, but a lot of the time there's a certain branding that goes into making a celebrity or whatever, and they brand themselves to be superior. They brand themselves to be in a way that is not human, and that's fine. People don't need to show the personal sides to them, but understand that it does something to your mind, and it tries to get you to believe that these people are just on a different level than you, but so you don't even try, because you think you're just born into this life and you can't do these things. And I'm not saying aspire to be a celebrity, like, no, I'm saying aspire to connect to yourself and to create from that place. And I know how that sounds. Like, I really do know how that sounds in this age. I know this is a podcast about shame, or podcast, whatever you want to call it. This is about shame. But I do think, again, the shame goes back to unraveling, right? And going back to the purity of who we were before the world shamed us to conform. It's all connected. all the times I'm talking in circles because everything is just connected. We are all whole beings, whatever you go through or not, you are whole. But to feel whole and to feel complete and to be really strong in your center is a different thing. I feel like I'm finally there. I mean, I've been saying there's times where I used to call this inner union, where I felt like I had to come into oneness with myself, and at times I was like, okay, I'm in oneness with myself, but there's always more layers, and every time I'm like, wow, I gain more strength, and it's so beautiful. I'm so happy for that. Even the little win that dissolves shame. We build our wholeness within ourselves, or we find our way back to that wholeness by choosing ourselves in moments and building that relationship with ourselves. When it's like you finally choose yourself, and there's times where I never chose myself at all, and there's no shame in that either. Because of trauma that we go through, we tend to look for love in places. Just one example, we tend to look for love in places and people, and sometimes when we never felt loved growing up, we can look for love, and then that can lead us to a toxic relationship or abusive relationship, because we put up with anything because we're just like, one scoop of love, even if it comes with a million scoops of pain, it's worth it because at least it's love. And coming back to wholeness, I feel like, so when you have that love within yourself, that you're no longer seeking it. I know we are meant to love each other, all of us here on this earth, and love is we are all meant to share that with one another and experience it with other people. I do believe that, but also when you have it within yourself, you don't need it from other people. And the same thing kind of goes where it's like, if someone tries to bring you down, it doesn't really affect you. It just ricochets and you're in this magical force field bubble because it doesn't affect you. And that's what I'm learning with me. The more that I share, the more that I'm showing myself, look, it doesn't hurt. I am being open. And I could be even more open, I'm sure. I'm sure I'll be revealed down the road how I can even improve more and deepen into myself more. Of course, I can deepen into myself more. I'm so excited to. And I already see so many ways that I can, but again, it's a process. But as well, now that I'm giving myself the permission to not be imperfect, if something were to get traction when I'm not perfect, I think I would not have a panic attack. I would be like, okay, it's fine. Not where you want to be, but it's okay. If someone were to say something about me, like, it just doesn't matter anymore. Like, nothing affects me. I don't care about anyone's opinion. I don't care. I don't need validation from anyone. Everything I create or do, it's for myself, my inner child and my inner teenager, for my present self, for my future self. It's all for my soul. And that might sound selfish, like you're just, this whole existence is just for you. It is. What also motivates me is not just myself, it's the things I want to do and ricochet, and the things that I want to create for other people as well. So it is for myself, but it's also, I do want to help. I just don't care about the opinions of it. I don't care about the outside critic anymore. Tell yourself, I'm not wrong. Whatever you think is wrong with you, seriously, ask yourself, why do I think this is wrong with me? Do I really think that not another human does not have this desire or urge or problem? Like, you think you are messed up, you're mental for wanting this, but you are human. We're the only species on this planet that is against our own biological rhythm. No, I know so many people that are so ashamed of their sexuality, and that's a huge topic with shame. And I know for me, I have always been so repressed in this area. I've had so much shame in this area. It's interesting because for me, that just translated that shame to avoidance into, okay, well, I just felt like it was so wrong or something because, again, I had strict parents. I mean, did I even say that in this video? I have no idea. I had really strict parents, and there's certain other incidences that led to me to be highly repressed in that area. And I never really explored that area to the extent that I think, well, on average, people my age have. And maybe this is so much information, but I don't think it is, because what the hell, we are humans, and it's literally hardwired into our DNA for these things. Like, this is what connects us. This is not what separates us. So whatever. This is what we need to talk about. Shame made me fall into this good girl academic quality, but I always had this darker side that I never really explored. I mean, there's parts of me that started to manifest certain traumas, and it definitely was kind of explored, but not in the right way. And then that sent me through a phase of destruction, and most of that was from trauma, not from shame. I'm also not attracted to anyone, so there's that. So many men actually are into men, and that's fine. Like, who cares? I mean, for me, I think it's kind of, I'm not attracted to anyone, but I think it's kind of weird to be attracted to one shape and not the other. I'm like, why is it such a big deal? You know, I feel like most men are attracted to men, or I don't know. Maybe that's not true. Maybe that's just, I've had a really large number of people in my, based off my statistic pool, my analysis is completely wrong. Okay, I'm not projecting. It's just my analysis pool. It makes me think. I'm like, why are they so ashamed to say that? And it's because of society. Whether it's natural or not, I don't know. But the point is, it's so weird to me that we talk about the stupidest things. How is it that having a Birkin bag that should be shameful and not talking about what's human? Is this the state of our society? I think what's shameful is being so disconnected from your own humanity. Understand, shame is not personal. It is a cultural tool that keeps people conformed. It's like, you understand this. Next time you feel shame, tell yourself, this is what they want. This is what they want. They want you to feel shame, and it's working, and it's taking away your inner authority. It's taking away your inner power. And by you giving into this, you are following the script that they programmed into you. They instilled this shame into us to ensure you continue down this path, work a job that's disconnected from yourself. When you're disconnected from yourself and you don't understand that you can create your own reality. Like, we all should have been, again, creating our own realities. We all should have been taught that. When you're disconnected from that, what do? You either rely on them. You rely on them. Of course, they can use you for their benefit. It's predictable. You're stable. But it suffocates your evolution. It goes back to the choice. You have a choice once you become aware of it. Are you going to be the sheep and be in the herd? Are you going to follow the script that they laid out for you? Or are you going to try to take back your life, reclaim your life? You have to be willing to face risk. And when that discomfort comes pulsing through you and you just want to bury your head under a pillow, because you will. Oh, you will. That's when you step in with the compassion. That's where you say no. And that's where you hear yourself, so you hear how you speak to yourself, and the words you say to yourself matter. The words you speak manifest. That's why I'm like, I don't even want to say certain things, explain them, because I don't want these words to manifest. But I will tell myself, no. You have to reparent yourself. You have to act before is approved. And that's going to be uncomfortable first. It is. When you're these authorities who don't know even how to lead, or these toxic school systems. Also understand that shame is not a reliable indicator that you did something wrong or you are wrong. Because we all often feel like, I feel so much shame for this. Like, if a guy is gay, secretly gay, I don't even like the word gay, but whatever, it's gay, he maybe he's attracted to men, right? And he thinks it's wrong. But it's not wrong. Some people think it's wrong. But that doesn't mean it's wrong. It just means you feel like it's wrong, but doesn't mean it is. Desires like this sometimes come from people being assaulted or things like this, and it has an effect on you. And because of that, you blame yourself for experiences that you went through as well. Things that happened to you and that affected you. Maybe it did affect your taste, but neither of them is something you should feel shameful for. We all share so many of the same experiences, and we just all shut up about it. We're all silent about it. I will not be silent anymore about anything. No. I was so quiet for so long. Did not speak. So quiet. Walked in the halls. Anxiety. Never again. I think you also start to heal your shame when you start to find your voice and to speak your voice. And when it comes to finding your voice, I mean, you don't have to be a speaker. That's not what I mean. I mean, it's finding who you are and getting a backbone and sticking up for yourself and not letting people walk over you. To really figure out who you are in this world. it's sometimes a process, and that unfolds in a multitude of ways. I know for me, I feel like I'm definitely coming more into my voice, and I'm so excited to strengthen that. But at first, it was not always pretty. Even maybe a few months ago, I was still, the way I was trying to find my voice was still unhinged, and that's okay. But I feel like the more that you start to allow yourself to express without the filter, even if you feel mortified from it months later, like I have, you have to fail forward. You have to fail with anything, but it's not failure. I think failure is an illusion. Fail forward. I always say fail, or the faster that I be vulnerable, the more that I can now sit through that uncomfortableness, and the faster that I can learn. Not that you need to be fast about any of this. Take it how you want. Take it slow. But I do have a quite extreme mentality. Sometimes I will do something quite extreme for my self-development to propel me faster. I realized that this shame I felt was the costume and not my soul. So my soul was trying to express itself, and my soul did not know how to express itself, because how would my soul know how to express itself? My soul has not spoken for how long. My soul has been hidden away. I pushed it down, and whoever this was with all these learned faces, of course my soul is trying to shine through, and it doesn't know how to, because I've never given it permission to in a long, long time. I realized that change the perspective. Like, let's change the perspective. This is what I said to myself. I mean, this is the thought I had. And so I'm like, how do I express this? The thought I had was, if I switch perspectives, instead of saying, looking at it from this worldly, I don't know what the right word, view, and instead of saying, oh my God, like, how could you let your soul out like that? Like, there's a way to let it out, and let it out tastefully. It's just like something so embarrassing. Instead of my costume or whatever, let's say that, looking at my soul and judging my soul for just wanting to shine through, what if I look at it from the perspective of my soul? I know I'm not explaining this the best way, but I'm trying. What if my soul is looking back at my mind and judging my costume? I'm like, that's a healthier perspective to have. Flip the perspective. Instead of saying what's wrong with me, be like, no, what's right with me? What did I do right? And what else can I learn from there? What I did right was allowing my inner child to speak. It was the way I did it that can be learned from, but I would not have learned and got closer to how I want to share if I didn't do that. Or maybe I would have, but at the same time, I had to let myself be authentic and to follow that impulse, because if you're thinking about it, it's not really authentic. And sometimes you have to just be impulsive and act in the moment. And I definitely have. That's better than ruminating and then never doing anything. It's so calculated. Why are we so nonchalant? Because being nonchalant requires you to be all stoic and reserved, and to think and to be calculated. But that's not wearing your heart on your sleeve. There's nothing wrong with being intentional, right? Like, we want to be intentional with things and move towards things that we have potential, but your heart knows what's intentional, and you can go towards what you feel gravitate towards and then act on it, and without thinking about it. I don't know. It's a fine line, because it's okay to think about some things, but hopefully you can try to understand what I'm trying to say. What happened to us being vulnerable in relationships, like, that is the premise of relationships. So many relationships feel so superficial and transactional nowadays, because there's not that connection, and you can't have that connection unless you have the vulnerability. And that's why I got to this point where I was like, literally, I don't want a relationship, because I've got to this point, like, I have so much self-love with myself. What could someone give to my life? Like, I have this connection with myself now. I used to, like, still want that frenzy of love, but now I'm just like, you can still have a connection, but it's like not as deep as a connection with myself, because people are still calculated, people are still nonchalant. I just feel like we as society have a deep craving for vulnerability and freeness, and just saying what you think and what you want, and that requires letting go of the shame. We were taught that vulnerability is shameful. So everyone's just little robots. I don't think people want to be that way. I think people want to be free flowing, and it's so fun it's so amazing to not just be calculated, just to be yourself, and to allow yourself to be yourself. And yeah, like, it's like, what choice do you have? You have a choice that you live in this prison of your own. It's not your own making, it's the system that you're born into. So you have this programmed prison box that you're in of your body and your mind telling you all these lies. They're lies. It's not true. Or so you have that to live with, which it sounds like hell. Or you can break the cycle, which is also difficult, right? So, but also it's obviously worth it. Healing is miraculous, and putting an effort in, and instead of just, it's going to come up anyways, the rumination's going to cycle anyways. I think it's better to just heal it with self-compassion instead of avoiding it, because avoiding it just repeats the cycle forever. At least if you have the self-compassion and you take baby steps to be seen, or whatever it is that you're struggling with when it comes to shame, because shame again has different implications. It's not just about being seen. When you have that self-compassion and you take that action, the baby steps, that rewires new neural pathways. And when you rewire new neural pathways, that reprograms your body. And so that is dissolving the old pathways. I do believe that in shedding these layers of shame, doing that work, sitting through the uncomfortableness, sifting through it, that you are reclaiming your life. You are saying, no, like, I'm not letting this system control me and steal away what I truly love. And we have to give ourselves permission as well. We have to tell ourselves that it's okay to be different. It's okay to be weird. It's not just okay. It is a gift to be different. I always felt different, and I was, like, based off of the population. We were all different, but based off the population of and environments I was in, I was always an outlier. But I thought that was a bad thing. Now, I completely did a 180. I shift my entire perspective. Now I'm like, wow, it's a gift. But there's still times where I am not leaning into that. I'm not leaning into what makes me the same. I do chip away at these things, and you just pick one thing at a time in your life that you want to chip away at, and eventually you get closer and closer to your true self and your soul. And then in all areas of your life, eventually you will just have this embodied soul light. We don't need to throw any version of ourselves away to change. And I mean, change does not happen overnight. It's bit by bit. Eventually it does compound and accumulates. And then before we know it, if we do choose this path, we can have a life that is more in alignment with who we are. I sometimes look back on, there's this period of time in my life where I was really, like, mentally not okay. Not in the depression state. It was like my brain was not okay. There's a few reasons why. I talk about this quite a bit, but like how the trauma manifested into my life and took a hold on me. But also because there's a multitude of reasons. Because I was in an environment where I could not think clearly. I could not survive because it was an abusive environment. And then on top of that, was on medication. And this medication was supposed to be helping me for something, and it completely destroyed my mind. This is one of the reasons I'm very against medication. I have a multitude of reasons why I'm against medications, and I do believe, for the most part, not all circumstances, for the most part, we should be using nature, because nature is natural and science is not more healing for the most part. I was not myself. I was the furthest from myself I've ever been. Really was really far from myself. I had so much shame. This took me so long to overcome, to get over. I have the compassion for myself now to be like, look at the circumstances you were under. Look how this trauma manifested. And now I'm not saying shame is always an excuse. Like, if you did something wrong, I think it's healthy to feel a certain amount of shame. I think it's healthy to feel guilt, even though guilt's a little bit different than shame. It is healthy to feel these things. But this was something where I didn't do anything to anyone else. It was completely to myself. So, yeah, I'm responsible for my actions. But at the same time, I think nothing is ever black and white. There's not one story that is the same. Even though we're all connected and we share so many of the same experiences, everyone's story is different. And someone in my family, actually, someone in my life, they said something to me, and I was like, wow. And they completely categorized me based off this one thing I did, not looking at me as a whole, as a human being, ate me alive. And I would ask myself, what is like wrong with you? Like, I seriously did not understand how I could have done this to myself. I seriously couldn't understand for so long. After I was off the medications and I was healing, I would look back at stuff and not understand why someone would do that to themselves. But I also had to have the compassion, like, now you're out and you can out of that. You are so healed. And I really do feel like I genuinely feel so healed. Yes, I feel human emotions. So yes, I have these things, but There's nothing that can shake me. There's nothing that can rock me. I feel so healthy, so centered. I have no mental health problems. Of course, there's sometimes I'm still sad at times, but I really don't have any mental problems at all. And I had extreme bad mental health before. It's night and day, night and day. I had to remind myself, first of all, you were young. First of all, you're this, you're this, you're this. I have to have compassion for myself because no one else is going to give me that compassion. I have to give it to myself because I know the truth. I know my heart. I know my heart and my soul. And at the end of the day, that's what matters, your heart and soul. I had to be there for myself and give myself that grace. Most people are not going to give you that grace. You have to give it to yourself. You have to give it to yourself. There's that voice that tries to eat you alive and tries to be like, well, you're ruined, or you're not worthy, or you're this, and all these thoughts come up. Don't listen to them. Instead, create a new voice. Don't just put it down and fight with this voice. Like, create a new voice. And that is you, and that's compassion, and that's the parent that you needed, the person that you needed. Be there for yourself. Because the thing is, like I said, we all make mistakes. You, at the end of the day, like, you have to be able to make mistakes. You're human. You're not a robot. You are meant to make mistakes. You are meant to fall down, and if someone says anything, well, there you are to defend yourself, or there you are to not say anything because you know in your core of who you are. And that's the whole thing about being who you are in your core. That is freedom. That's how you free yourself from shame. That's how you free yourself from almost everything, is staying true to yourself. Because at the end of the day, it does not matter what happens to you. It does not matter if you know who you are and you stay true to yourself, if you have your soul. There is no higher form of abundance than having peace inside your heart and your soul. Most people are not actually confident. A lot of people put their worth on things outside of themselves. And now listen, I love dressing up this little character, vessel, whatever I have of mine sometimes. But the thing is, like, my worth does not come from it anymore. No, just kidding. I never did. I don't feel like I ever did. But there's times where I didn't know my worth, really. Of course I didn't, because we all eventually lose our worth. That's the whole point of shame. We lose ourselves. True confidence, it's kind of misunderstood because people think, oh, that person's confident. Anyone can walk down the street and strut and eat alone at a restaurant. Like, that's not true confidence. I don't know, like, I guess it's a form of confidence, but true confidence comes from, again, your heart and your soul. It comes from being within. You could go to the grocery store looking like shit. Like, confidence isn't, oh, look what this person's wearing. You could go to the grocery store looking like shit, but you don't care because your worth doesn't come from that. It's not avoiding shame. It's not avoiding any of these things. It's loosening the grip and the chokehold that shame has on you. Yes, you're going to still feel the moments it arises, but in these moments, you can ask, how do I stay true to myself? How do I live with integrity? How do I make myself feel safe? And how do I stay true to myself? This is the human experience. Emphasis on experience. There's nothing that you're meant to achieve or gain. It's fine if you want to apply yourself and all of that, but at the end of the day, this is an experience for your soul. And whatever you have gone through, whatever you gravitate towards, listen to that instead of trying to suppress it, because it's trying to tell you something. Everything that arises within you is trying to speak to you, is trying to tell you something. Whatever arises and it feels uncomfortable, try to question, why is it that it feels uncomfortable? You get to choose your life. You get to choose. At any moment, you can choose, I want to change. I don't want this in my life anymore. It doesn't matter what age you are. It doesn't matter anything. If you want to make a decision to change or to leave something, what's stopping you? You think you're too old, you're too late, you're too... Whatever it is that you think has a hold on you, it's probably an illusion. It's probably a construct in your mind. In reality, we can change anything. And we have to give ourselves the permission, because no one else is going to give us the permission to follow what's true to ourselves. The world will say it's selfish to follow your desires. It's not selfish to follow your desires. This is what we're meant to do, because your desire is your soul's calling. There's so many other people out there that have the same struggles that you have. There's no such thing as too much, too late. it doesn't even exist. You will find people for you. If you feel alone, you will find people for you the more that you embrace yourself. And there's a lonely chapter. There always is. There always is, when you go down this path of wanting different than what you, by even being aware of something like this, by even questioning something like this, you want change. And shame does have a interesting way of trying to disqualify the future. The past has no bearing on the future. You just think it does because you make up these stories in your head. It doesn't. Tell yourself this is a construct of my own making. Play out the scenarios in your head. What could happen? And why are you scared of something that could happen? Because a lot of times shame is not just connected to the past. It is that resistance, like I said earlier, to the future. When you address it and you play it out, you'll realize that, okay, well, if this is not as scary as I think, and why was I scared to begin with? Because who is someone else to comment on my life? I think that's what we're always scared. I keep going with the comments and the opinions because that is what we are all scared of. We are scared of being exiled. We are scared of being embarrassed. We are scared of being judged. When you realize that the people that are judging us, the critics, most of the critics, they don't even know how to critical think. There's good people out there, nice people that make effort to be kind. But when you start to realize, like, even the most good, amazing people get slandered. Being exiled from the crowd, look what the biggest majority of people today are. Look at society. Do you really want that? Society is lost. And that's not to separate yourself, to say you're above. No. We need to be the change that we want to see, though. And one could say maybe that's lonely to embark on that path, and I'll have to give up certain things. I'll have to lose certain things. Are you not losing more? Ask yourself. Again, do that reverse perspective. You are losing so much more. You're losing your entire life by not living a life that's true to yourself. And you'll get to the end of your life in this lifetime, and you will realize how, because of shame, you did not want to live true to yourself. But this can be broken. And you can rid yourself, you can free yourself from the shackles of shame by claiming, no, this is your life. My life doesn't have to go like anyone else's. This is my life. It goes how I goes. I can change anytime. I can make decisions. I can wake up at 70 and choose this career. I can do whatever I want. There are no rules. You only think that there is because you've been taught that there are. These rules are meant to keep you in a prison. Anyways, I think shame is a very interesting topic, and it's a topic I wish was talked about a lot more, and I wish people would not be so afraid, not be so scared to be themselves. It always goes back to shame and conformity.